Hi, I'm Costin Sandoy from Oxygen XML team and welcome to Document Type Configuration in Oxygen XML. In my presentation for today, you will learn how to configure a framework in Oxygen. For that, I chose the JTS vocabulary as an example for which, in order to work with, it has to be configured such a framework. First, we're gonna start off with a basic introduction into the JTS vocabulary and why we need to configure a framework to work with JTS documents in Oxygen. Then, we're gonna dive into Oxygen's framework configuration procedure in order to have validation working for our JTS documents, to have a default transformation scenario to apply, content completion assistance, visual editing support, and custom actions that you could use. Whilst we configure the framework step by step, we will also take a peek at the beneficial results of the configuration. Then I will show you how to create JTS document templates that can be used by others. At the end of the presentation, you should be able to create a framework to suit your needs, to create custom actions in Author, and work with document templates. In order to start our demonstration, of course, we need an installed copy of Oxygen XML with write access to the frameworks directory. Oh, and by the way, the frameworks directory can be set in Oxygen under the Global Preferences tree in Oxygen's options. It is right here. The option is called Use Custom Frameworks Directory, and I've already configured mine. While developing your framework, you will have to perform some XSLT and CSS customization. You will work with different types of schema, so knowledge in these technologies would be useful. Well, the vocabulary I've chosen as an example for today is called JATS. That stands for Journal Article Tag Suite, and is a common XML format meant for the publishers and archives to exchange journal XML contents. It defines a set of XML elements and attributes for tagging journal articles. The reason I chose the JTS vocabulary is that it is an existing standard and already has predefined XSLT and CSS files, either official or written by community. For example, the CSS file that I will use during my demonstration was written by Wendell Pease, so all credit goes to him. Almost all the resources that I am talking about today are available online at these two links, so you can go there and download them. If you previously worked with Oxygen XML Author, at some point maybe you wondered how Oxygen manages to transform a document from this text editing centered mode to the flavor appealing and easier to use Author environment. Well, as you can see in my example, I opened a DocBook sample file just to show you the multitude of actions that Oxygen comes bundled with for the DocBook 5 framework. And the document is correctly rendered in Author environment. We have content completion working, and it helps me by offering sensitive proposals. Also, we have validation working for the document is valid, and if we go to the configure transformation scenario, you can see that there are quite a few default transformations that you could apply to obtain a desired format from your DocBook document to publish it to a required format. So, what I'm trying to tell you is that all the additional features and custom actions in the Author mode are available due to the customization process and are defined by such a framework. To make a better idea, let's take a look at the predefined DocBook 5 framework that Oxygen comes bundled with. Let's see how it is configured in order to offer you the validation and transformation support, visual editing, and all these custom actions. The framework configuration is stored in the document type association page from Oxygen's options. That's how a framework looks like in Oxygen. Here is the Dogbook 5 configuration with namespace association with a default schema file as well as a catalog file, both needed in order to have validation working for our Dogbook 5 document. We have the CSS files needed to render the document in author environment, and we have some predefined transformation scenarios to publish the document in a desired format. We have some predefined actions that you observed in the toolbar, and so on. But we'll talk all about that features a bit later in this presentation. Visually, the first interaction with a new vocabulary is when you open for the very first time a sample document. And I have such a sample file right here, which I'm opening right now. And the content is not so relevant, but as you can see, the document opened in the text editing mode. At this moment, we cannot go to author environment, and content completion doesn't help because it doesn't work right now. It is not offering any proposals. The validation of the document is not working, it is not valid, and if we go to the transformation scenarios, you can see that there are we don't have any transformation scenario to apply right now. There are a lot of differences in behavior from the Dogbook document that I've previously shown you as an example. That happens because in order to get the most out of XML files, Oxygen needs a schema to validate the structure of XML file. It needs XSL files to publish the content, and of course it needs CSS files to render properly the document in the author mode. And as long as the document refers the CSS file, then Oxygen uses it for rendering. Otherwise, it should be specified in the framework configuration. Oxygen keeps all document type association related information in a directory called frameworks, and as you can see, each framework has its own directory. So this is what I'm going to do right now, and I'm creating a new directory for our framework, which I'm calling JTS. And here I want to copy all the necessary resources that I already have prepared. Here are the DTD and the schema catalog files needed to have validation working for our JTS document. I have XSLT files in order to apply transformation scenarios and publish my document into a desired format. I have a CSS file needed to have a proper rendering of the document in author environment, and some other required resources for the configuration process. So I'm copying all of this in my newly created JTS framework directory. Okay, now having this done, the rest of the configuration process will take place in the document type configuration dialog from the document type association page. Here I am creating a new framework. It needs a name that will identify it, so I'm calling it JTS. Here goes any description you might want. Let's say journal article tag suit. and I will leave the priority setting as it is right now. This setting has to be changed only if there are multiple frameworks matching the same document. So this is not our case. I will leave it as it is right now. The internal and external options from the storage section tells Oxygen where to save the configuration file of the framework. That means in Oxygen's configuration file or in another location, allowing the file to be redistributed. And since I want this framework to be distributed to the rest of my team, I am choosing external for now. Now I'm browsing for the location where I want it to be saved, and I'm giving it a name, JTS, let's say. Okay. In the association rules section, you can define the rules that Oxygen uses to correctly identify the type of file you are trying to load. So these criteria could be the namespace of the document, the local name of the root element, the file name, the public ID, or the Java class. So Oxygen allows you to use wildcards, and if I leave this field as it is right now, that would mean our JTS framework would match documents coming from any namespace. Let's concentrate on the local name of the root element, which in our case is article, and I'm typing that in here. I will leave the file name as it is right now, and I want to speak about the public ID, which is a very, very important option. And I say that because a public ID works as a unique identifier that helps differentiate between different types of documents that might otherwise match any other criteria. So if I use a fragment like this, that would mean our JTS framework would match documents coming from any namespace that have article as the local name of the root element and contains this fragment in their public ID. So this is it with the association rules for now. In order to have validation engine working for our documents, we could use a default schema file by going to the schema section, but for now I want to use a catalog file, so I'm going to the catalog section. I have already prepared a catalog file, and I want to tell you that catalog files are used for mapping a remote schema available online to a local schema file that would be used in case there is no internet connection at the time. Basically, it resolves a remote resource through a local one. And to help you make a better idea about how a catalog file looks like, let me show you mine. Here it is. This is an XML catalog file which contains a brief description as XML comments about the version and the date it was created, about its purpose, its revisions, and so on. And after this part, as you can see, it contains a list of public IDs, of public catalog entries that maps DTD public identifiers to some given URIs. So this is how a catalog file looks like. As I said, I'm going to select it in order to have validation working for our JTS framework. I'm browsing for it. Here it is. As you can see, Oxygen automatically made the path relative to make the framework portable and to ease redistribution. And let's take a look at the document now, see if we have validation. As you can see, our document is now valid. The validation works okay right now. And because the validation works and the DTD is resolved through the catalog file and the document is well formed, author mode is also working now. So if I'm switching to author mode, you can see the document is rendered, but in order to have a nice rendering, we still need to specify a CSS file in the configuration of the framework. So let's get back to the framework configuration right now. And I have to configure a default transformation scenario, so I'm switching to the transformation tab because I want to publish my XML document to HTML using an XSL file. I will choose the first option, XML transformation with XSLT, and click to add a new transformation scenario. I will call our transformation scenario JTS to HTML because this is what I want to do, to obtain an HTML file from our JTS document. And let's choose an XSL file for the transformation. Here it is. As the transformation engine, I'm going to use the latest version of the Saxon engine that comes bundled with Oxygen. And switching to the output tab, I want to instruct Oxygen to save the resulting HTML file with the file name of the current document. So under the save as, I am going to use an editor variable to do that from the green arrow pointing downwards like button. And from the drop list, I'm going to use current file name. This is the editor variable needed. And all I have to do right now is to add the extension, which in our case is .html. When the transformation process will start, this variable will be automatically replaced with the file name of the current document. And of course there are many other editor variables that you could use, such as the path of the current file, of the current file directory, timestamp, date, and so on, but I will let you discover all of this. Also, I want to instruct Oxygen to open my resulting HTML in my browser by clicking on this box. And I will leave this box empty because I do not want that the resulting file to be previewed as an XML one in the internal editor. That should do it. And click in OK, and you can see our transformation scenario already appeared in the list, JTS to HTML. Because I want it to be a default transformation scenario, I can click on this box. Okay, let's see what I've made so far and check if we could get the required HTML file. So I'm going back, and if I go to the configure transformation scenarios, you can see that it appeared. Our previously defined transformation scenario appeared as a default one in this list, which I will apply right now by clicking on transform now. And here it is. You can see that the HTML, the resulting HTML file was correctly converted, and it is rendered correctly in my browser. It opened in it. Now let's go deeper to the with our configuration process. In order to have a nice rendering of the document in the author view, we need to specify a CSS file that will be used for the rendering process, and you can add the CSS files from the author section in the configuration window under the CSS tab. So I will specify the CSS file I already have and click OK. So I'm going to specify its URI. Browse for it. It is right here. You can give any title you want to the CSS file. I will call it simple CSS1, and that should do it. Again, the paths were made relative to give our framework portability. Let's see how our document looks now in the author visual mode. Switching to the author page, as you can see, the document was correctly displayed in author environment. It is correctly rendered now, and because now we have visual editing support, I would like to show you how different elements like external references or xrefs, tables and images are rendered and displayed in the author mode. Well, the JITS vocabulary offers a cross-reference mechanism that allows xref elements which have an RID attribute and points to another element which has the same value for the ID attribute. And the most important benefit of using xrefs is that you can view contents of external files in your current document view. So as to make a comparison, it is like building a structure by putting together the existing floors instead of building it from scratch as a whole. So you can see that if I click on this xref element, the referred element is dropped into focus. This is the element which had the same ID value as the RID of the xref element. Because JITS vocabulary offers a table model similar to the one existing already in the HTML, the default implementation of Oxygen table support works very nicely, and the tables are properly rendered. And as you can see, I can resize the cells of the table. From the outline view, I can copy, cut or delete specific cells or rows. Let's say if I want to copy the entire first row in my table, I'm going to it in the outline view and right click on it, say copy, and let's say I want to paste it after the second row from the table, so I'm selecting the second row in the outline view, right click and say paste after. And as you can see, our first row in the example table, it was copied after it. Of course, I can delete some of the rows of the table, or just cut it, or just delete a single cell in a row, and so on. Of course, there are many actions that you can perform with tables, but because they are out of scope for our discussion today, I will let you explore them all. Let's see how images are rendered in the author view now that we have visual support. And for that, I am going to use Content Completion Assistant to insert a graphic element like that. And for the graphic element I've inserted, I will edit its attributes, and more specific its href attribute, to make it point to a local image that I have prepared. Let's say this image. And as you can see, the image is also properly rendered in outer environment. Now let's advance to the next step and see how you can improve the toolbar by adding custom actions to it, your own actions. Because users that are working in a visual environment that resembles a word processor maybe are currently expecting to find similar word processor actions that perform complex operations with just a single click. And as you remember, the Dogbook framework offers a large number of such actions. So now I want to show you just a simple example about how to add an emphasize action button in the author page. The actions can be configured from the framework configuration dialog under the author section in the actions tab in the left. So I am adding my new action in here. To identify it, an action needs an ID and a name. For now I am using bold as its ID, and as the name I will use emphasize. In this of course you can go to description and add any description you want. And in these descriptions you can add a large and a small icon for that will appear in the toolbar and in the contextual menu. So I am selecting, for now I'm selecting same icon for both of them. I have it prepared here. And I am choosing Ctrl B as the shortcut key. Now the actual functionality of these actions is based on Java implementations of the author operation interface. Oxygen already comes with a set of such actions, and I want to choose the corresponding implementation for my action right here, clicking on choose. And because the emphasize action I chose to show you actually means to surround the fragment with a bold element, I am choosing the surround with fragment operation. Of course, there are descriptions available for all these actions. I'm choosing mine and click OK. Further, I have to set a value for the fragment, which is in fact, as I said previously, a bold element. So I'm adding the bold element as the value. Okay. And that is all for now in the configuration. Now the action has appeared and can be added to the toolbar and to the contextual menu. To add it to the toolbar, you can go in the left tab, on the toolbar tab, select your action from the available actions panel on the left, and add it to the left, to the right panel, to the current actions. The same procedure applies for adding the action to the contextual menu. I'm selecting it and add it to current actions for contextual menu. And let's say, well, okay, so you can see that our action already appeared in the toolbar and in the contextual menu. So let's say I want to select this fragment of text and emphasize it. So I'm clicking on the bold action. As you can see, it emphasizes my selection. Let's test the contextual menu action. For that I'm selecting this text and access the emphasize action from the contextual menu. I'm applying it and it works. It works well. Well, that's it with the framework configuration for now. And now that you've created your framework, in order to pass it to other users, you may want to avoid customizing each time, like selecting a schema or a CSS file and so on. And all you have to do is to add a set of template files to your framework. I have just a single template file right here, and all I have to do is to go into my framework configuration dialog, and from the templates section I have to choose the template, the directory containing my template file. So I'm going to browse for it, and I'm going to choose it. Here it is. And if I click OK, the Oxygen is analyzing the directory and automatically adds the files found inside it to the templates from the File New menu. And again, you see that the path is made relative. I will test that right now. So I'm going to the File menu and click on New. In the sort filter, I will type JTS, and as you can see, here is my template. Oxygen correctly identified it. And as I click Create, I get a fresh new document ready to edit. And because it is a document from the JTS framework, it is correctly rendered in the author page. The validation is working. You can see the document is valid. It is a skeleton document. So if I go to the configure transformation scenarios, you see that the predefined transformation scenario associated to the framework, to the JTS framework, appeared in the list, and we can apply it, and we can transform our document template. Of course, we have to edit it before. So that being said, all you have to do further is to package your newly created framework and send it to any other users from your team. And to package it, you should just archive the JTS framework directory and send it to the other users. You can do that using any archiving software you might want, and you can send it by email or on a memory stick, a CD, or any other mean to the others. Well, that was all. My demonstration ends up here, so I hope all of you learned how to configure your own framework following just a few steps, and as you have seen, it is just a matter of minutes to create a framework to suit your needs and redistribute it to other users as well. Goodbye everyone.